You want to see Calhoun, correct? All right. Calhoun. That's Calhoun.
That doesn't show us neck hair.
Neck hair. See? That's neck hair. That's what I like. And you want to see one more thing? That's his death mask. All right, so that's Calhoun. We're good.
It's a shame it doesn't show us neck hair.
That would be cool. Now, Lincoln in 1864 had a series of problems too. Lincoln. And this is an anti-Lincoln cartoon. Now, there were 3 relative successes. Now, bills we've had before. This was already in that home front quiz. The Homestead Act would essentially give people land in the West. How big were the homesteads? Do you remember?
No, 3 acres.
It was a quarter section or 160 acres, which would turn out to be way too small for a homestead in the West because it doesn't rain enough. Another success was the Morrill Act. And the Morrill Act would use,
Successes or problems?
these are successes. I just want to make sure I got a couple of successes in there. And these could all pass because Confederacy weren't, the Confederate or the Southern congressmen weren't there. The Morrill Act, that one set up state universities funded by the sale of government land. They would focus on agriculture, so these would be agricultural research centers. So in every state, almost every state, this would fund state universities. And so there'd be an agricultural school too, or with it. What's University of Montana would be a Morrill, it's called a land grant college. What one in Montana? We have the 2 large colleges. One of them is the land grant college for the Morrill Act. Tampa College. MSU. MSU is the agricultural school. When I was a youth growing up, we used to call it moo you. Get it? Cow. Cows don't go moo in Europe, by the way. What do? They go ooh.
Why?
True story.
Why?
Because they're Europeans. You know, you ever seen those, what is it, spinning, what is it,
Tom?
Hear the sound.
yeah, you spin the thing and it goes like an animal sound. What do they call those? You know what I'm talking about? You spin it. My nephew's Berliner, he grows up in Berlin. They have that. I remember I did that for the cow. I went, ooh. I said, I thought it was moo. Ooh. He made it very clear to me, a 3-year-old German boy. So that's what they do.
Does he speak English?
Oh yeah.
Edgerton?
Yes.
Nice.
Wait, how are you related to him? How are you related?
People are related to me. I did not just appear.
You're related?
All right, so
Are they nephews?
my sister-in-law married a Berliner.
Okay.
He's from Berlin. She's from here. All right. The other act was the Transcontinental Railroad Act. And the big thing about this was, we'll talk about it more, but it was essentially massive government aid to help fund private railroads to connect with the Pacific. And so these were big achievements, but the rest, huge problems. And we've already had the draft riots. We've already had that one. But you also have to add, where is my mouse? Debt was going up. They had to issue a lot of bonds. Also, inflation was high. Not like the South, but inflation was high. Also, to pay this out, they passed the Legal Tender Act, which created greenbacks. Greenbacks were a new form of currency, paper money. They were green, and during the war, they weren't backed by anything except for the good name of the government. But in 1863, people weren't used to that. And so you have essentially high inflation, but 2 types of money. Greenbacks or currency, and coins, which are gold or silver. So you have this really confusing system that they would finally get rid of in 1873. We'll talk about that, obviously, when we get there. This is Lincoln with his cabinet. That's Secretary of War Stanton. I'm sorry, Stanton's right there. That's Salmon Chase, the Secretary of the Treasury, and he's printing out greenbacks. So it's criticizing using greenbacks. Also, Clement Vallandigham and the Cottonheads. Remember I mentioned the Copperheads before? Those Democrats who were pro-South? Vallandigham was their leader, congressman from Illinois, and he, by 1864, you could argue was leading into outright treason. And Lincoln, this was becoming a real problem. Lincoln would finally have him arrested without a trial and exiled to the South. They just sent him to the South. He actually tried to get back into Canada, tried to get back into Chicago. Kind of a really incredible story. But the point is, there's disunification in the North too. They gotta win the war. Yeah.
What was the legal tender?
Legal Tender Act created currency, greenbacks.
That's all.
Yeah. And the problem was now you have currency and you have specie, which is gold or silver coin. Yeah.
So what were the contracts?
Remember we mentioned those before? Those were
Yeah.
Democrats who were
Oh, yeah.
either pro-South, maybe even like, not just for peace, but like to help the South win.
Oh, okay.
Wait, what is that?
He was a leading copperhead. Clement Vallandigham. That's not a bad name. It's not as good though. Vallandigham.
But then it'll make you confused on how to say it. That's all.
Good point. And so, 1864, Lincoln appointed Grant. There's Grant. And even though Grant, most of his pictures, with the beard, he looks like a big burly man. He is actually a relatively small man. Here's my favorite picture of Grant. I'll explain the election in just a second. But here's a photograph of him getting his picture taken. And I like this because you can see what the photographer stands, so they can get his shoulders square. Notice all the lines radiating out. And I love this brace to hold his head steady. So you can't see it when he's actually getting the picture taken. Grant was actually a relatively slight man. And he almost never wore a general's tunic, overcoat, or jacket. He wore a private's one. He might have it altered to be, you put 2 stars on because he was a major general, 2-star general. But he was relatively unassuming. In fact, people looked at him when they were unimpressed when they first met him. Lincoln, who met him first in 1864, was actually kind of like underwhelmed. He expected this big guy to come in. He wasn't at all. And a couple things about him I just always found curious. He could not stand the sight of blood. It made him physically ill, which is weird considering his line of work. When he ate, now this is 1864, if you can afford it, you had meat. Every meal, meat. You had meat, and for dessert, meat. Then maybe a snack of meat. It had to be burnt to a crisp. Not just well done, like charcoal. Because it even had a hint of pink in it, and he would throw up. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Also, he's completely tone deaf. He couldn't hum a tune. You think about the army at this time. There's marching bands, there's music all the time. He couldn't pick out a tune. In fact, he said he knew 2 songs. 2 songs. One song was Yankee Doodle. The other wasn't. Do you get it? All right, so his goal now, same deal. The election is coming. The United States is going to have an election during the Civil War. Unheard of. No one had ever done that before. It just doesn't happen. And he's got to make it at least appear like the United States is going to win. Because if it looks like by this election that the war is going to drag, Lincoln will lose and the Confederacy probably will win. And so even after Gettysburg, they still have a chance. The North had chances, the South had chances, the South still has a chance. And his basic strategy, going through this really quick, the 2 big armies, General Sherman, all the armies of the West that went from Vicksburg and Shiloh and Chattanooga, they'll be under William Tecumseh Sherman, go to Atlanta, destroy the Confederate Army there. And then the Army of the Potomac under Meade, the victor of Gettysburg, Richmond, and destroy Lee's army. Grant, knowing the importance of this operation and the fact that he completely trusted Sherman, his command rode with Meade. So it's going to be it's Grant and Meade. They work together. Grant did the big overall movements. Meade directed the armies in the battle. And it worked out really well. But you'll see over and over again that they just simply will say Grant, and they'll forget Meade. And it was a team. It was a team that worked much better than anyone thought it would. Yeah.
So what was the Atlanta, or is that where they're from?
Yeah. No, they're going to go to Atlanta.
So that's
Take Atlanta.
Okay.
And so by going to take Atlanta, they'll destroy the Confederates there.
And so Sherman had like the West and Meade had like the Potomac.
Yeah,
So Grant's like the leader of
the whole thing. But his headquarters went with Meade. General Halleck was back in Washington, D.C. He was essentially like a chief of staff. He controlled all the supplies and did that. So Grant could be at the front. And so that's the plan. There are 3 other operations with this. Don't write these down, just look. Take Mobile, Alabama, attack south of Richmond to kind of stretch Lee thin, and also get the Shenandoah Valley, and all 3 of those failed miserably. So it's Sherman and Meade. So let's do this one first, Meade. And in the east, same battlefield we had before. Here's Fredericksburg, here's Chancellorsville, the Rappahannock, the Rapidian, the Wilderness. Richmond's down here, Washington, D.C.'s up here. Meade and over 100,000 men are encamped up here. Lee's down to about 60, and they are scraping the barrel. Not 60 men, 60,000. 60 men, wow. And they're down here. The rains quit in May, Meade moved. Grant rode with him. And his plan, get through the forest and attack and clear ground, so his whole army could be used. Meade couldn't allow that. And so on the march through the wilderness, in the Chancellorsville battlefield, right there, right as they're along the long march, Lee attacked them right there, thus beginning the Battle of the Wilderness. And this was, it says the 5th through the 7th, but actually it's more like the 5th through the 8th. 2.5 horrific days. Heavy forest, low hills, so it's hard to see anything. A really confusing, bloody battle that raged back and forth. The Battle of the Wilderness. This is a Confederate battle that happened just south of it. And it literally wasn't a forest. I'm still trying to figure out how do you fight a cavalry battle in the forest, which must have made it just awful. You know, guys being knocked out by trees, etc. And I'm going to give you an idea how confusing it is, just listen. Right here, the Union Army almost broke the Confederate Army, split their line in 2, and won a decisive victory for the Union. Lee had to ride to the front. In fact, he tried to ride to the front to rally forces to stop him. General Hancock was severely injured, or General Longstreet was severely injured. This fight, the Confederates almost broke through and split the Union Army in half. The trenches that the Union forces hastily dug are still there. It's on the Chancellorsville battlefield. And when men were digging trenches to try to protect themselves, they didn't realize it, but sometimes they dug through the fresh graves from the year before at Chancellorsville. That must have been awful, as you can imagine. And this battle, bloody, terrible battle. One of the most nightmarish of the war, not only for the intensity of it, but what happened on the night of the 6th and the 7th. Fire erupted. Remember that William Laud, they mentioned him in that Gettysburg video that he drew sketches? This is his sketch. And what happened was fire swept between the 2 lines. It was an unusually dry spring. Wounded men were everywhere. They couldn't get away on the fire. Here's hastily made stretcher trying to get a few men out. And so just this is your worst nightmare with this. Wounded men can't move, in agony already, and the fire is moving closer and closer. And what men who survive remember are the screams of agony and fear that these men have, and they can't reach them, they can't find them. So he kind of shows it here. Wounded men trying to escape as the fire advances. You try to get the whole thing in. But that would just be a thing of nightmares for the rest of their lives. Those wounded men and the fear of that, and also putting themselves in that position. Horrible battle. By the end of the 3rd day, it looked like another Confederate victory. Now, don't write these numbers down. I'm just giving you an idea of the casualties. There were 160,000 men total fought at this battle. There were, just listen to this, 30,000 casualties. A little over 18,000 Union, just about 12,000 Confederate. Another horrible bloodbath. It looked like another Confederate victory. A confusing one, but another victory. After every battle, have you noticed they fight a battle, then they go to camp, don't they? Then they'll fight again 3 months later. You notice that? And all the men know. In fact, they're really disappointed. In fact, a lot of the members of the Army of the Potomac are saying, Grant, he came here. Sure, he can win in the West, but he can't beat Lee. He doesn't know what the fighting like in the East. And so, this is what happened. The first Union Corps to pull out of the line was John Sedgwick's Corps, 6th Corps. And they went back here on the Orange Turnpike. If they go left, that means they're going north, back into camp, and they know they'll fight again in a couple months. If they turn this way, that means south. And what does that mean?
More fighting.
What's that?
More fighting.
More fighting tomorrow. And the battle might be worse than the wilderness. They know. They know what's coming. So it's dark on the night of the 8th. They're marching down this road. There's a couple torches. That's how they see it. At this road, Grant and Meade are both right there on horseback, watching the men march by. As they got closer, a member of Meade's staff, just silently, the lead regiment, he points south. And everybody knows what that means. And how do the men react?
They're upset.
What?
They're mad.
Think they're mad?
They're sad. They're upset.
I think they want to get
They started to cheer. They erupted with cheering. In fact, they had to run down the line to tell them to shut up because the Confederates could hear them. They were overjoyed, and they never looked at Grant the same. Grant fights. He ordered him. He knew Grant made the order to Meade. Why were they so happy?
They're gonna get it over with.
Exactly. They knew the only way we're going to win is to fight. As awful it is, they got to win the war. They want to go home. Fight. And so they turn south. And this is a big element. Now remember, I told you already the Confederates have a great advantage. They're on the defensive, and all they got to do is hold out. But here's the big reason why it's a defensive. Here's the big reason why armies on the defensive have such a huge advantage. Everybody quickly write down interior lines of communication. Interior lines. Now, defensive armies have them. And the only way I can really show it is I got to draw you a map of the entire Confederacy. Now, please, don't be jealous of my cartography and artistic skills, right? I was born with it. No formal training, interior lines. Okay, you ready? You want to see the Confederacy? I'm going to take you to the top, the entire South. You ready? Okay, let me get the, all right. The Confederacy. Perfect, right? Exact. Here's Richmond, here's Washington, D.C. Make sense? So here's Lee's army, here's Grant and Meade. They attack, they meet them right on the border, big fight, draw. And so if the Union Army wants to try to find another way to Richmond, that means they got to attack, they try to find a way around. So let's say they want to get here to get around. Does that make sense to everybody? How does the Union Army get from here to here? What do they got to do?
March.
Yeah, they got to march, but what's the direction they got to go at first?
South.
They go south, they'll be stopped. They got to kind of go north a little bit, kind of loop around to come back. Does that kind of make sense? So they got to kind of go around. But what can the Confederates do? That's interior lines. That is the big advantage that all defensive armies have. Now, I'm telling you this here, but this is going to happen in every war. So it's going to happen in, we'll get to World War I, World War II. Huge advantages. Where the Western Allies in World War I are going to have a huge advantage in numbers, but the Germans have interior lines. They could hold them off. World War II, Germany's going to be vastly outnumbered, but interior lines. And another thing is, so let's say they try a couple of them. So they go here. Look at the supply lines now. Getting long for the north, isn't it? For the south, it's the same or shorter. Huge advantage. Well, because of the mountains are to the west. That means that Grant and Meade have got to go east. So it's a race. Lee knows. He knows Grant's going to keep fighting. The race is on to the next road junction. The next road junction, right there, Spotsylvania. The Union Army has to march here. The Confederates have a more direct march. They beat him by 8 hours. 8 hours. And the first thing the Confederates did is dug trenches. Everybody's realizing by then, digging trenches is awful, hard work. But if you're in a trench, you might live. And so, they dug. Next battle then, Spotsylvania. Spotsylvania. And what's the problem with Spotsylvania? Exactly. Blood-sucking vampires. Right? Spotsylvania. And what's the big problem with vampires? They have no loyalty. Vampires they're that way for the south one day and for the north. Write this down, this will be on the test. Don't trust vampires. You got that? Check. Don't trust vampires. I always give advice for life. Life lessons, so to speak. So, don't trust vampires. They dug in, and now Grant and Meade got there and they had to find a place to attack. And it's a good defensive line. If you go there, the trenches are all there. You can walk along them, bring water. I found out the hard way that you get thirsty in Virginia. It was 70 miles uphill and snowing, get 100 degrees. That's what I had to go through, but I did it. Yeah, so it was a long walk. But Spotsylvania, to give you an idea of the intensity of Spotsylvania, General John Sedgwick, lead corps. The men loved him, they called him Uncle John. This is Spotsylvania, this is an attack at the angle we'll get to in a second. Here's Sedgwick. Stop. Sedgwick. Sedgwick is right there. Uncle John, they love him. Not a great, brilliant commander, but very brave. He had been wounded, not afraid of bullets at all. When he got there, Confederate snipers were taking pot shots at him about 300 yards away. In 1864, if you want to fire a rifle 300 yards away at a target, how do you have to point the gun, a musket? Yeah, about like that. The sight was about that long, so you can still see. They were hitting nearby. Bullets are hitting the dirt, and his staff members are ducking and hiding. They're really far away. Sedgwick is just looking at him, kind of disgusted. Man, you got nothing to be afraid of. They couldn't hit an elephant at this distance. Never finished the work.
You shot.
Right in the head. Right
Yes.
there. Yes! That's scary. No, he got shot. And that's a good example of how awful the fighting is going to be. Sedgwick died before the battle even started. And so, this is a picture of the trench lines, and I want to give you an idea of what it looked like. The Confederate trench lines stretch for a long ways and then makes this really sharp angle and goes down. And Grant and Meade are probing, looking for a place to attack. Because they figure we can beat them here, destroy their army, we can win the war. Well, there's a pretty big clearing between the forest and the trench line. This area about 100 yards. Here's only about 40 yards. And on the 11th, a major, a guy by the name of Emory Upton, who's a very famous New York family, the Uptons, wealthy family, he came up with a really good idea. Remembering Gettysburg and Fredericksburg, if the men line up in those nice lines and march at the enemy, what happens? Well, his plan was, go to that one spot in the forest here, about 40 yards away, so they can't quite see him. And he would take his regiment. He went to the Sedgwick's replacement, General Warren, and said, here's the line. I won't be parallel. I'll get my regiment of 400 men in 2 columns this way and hit them perpendicular. And he would order them, don't load your muskets, fix bayonets, and charge. Don't stop. There'd be no preliminary bombardment. A quick blast on the bugle, they stand up and charge, screaming at the top of your lungs. Then when the first unit gets to the trench, they go that way, and the other one goes that way, clear it out. The idea is take it by rush before they're ready. And why not? They gave him a shot on the 11th. And first thing, Upton, who would be right in between him, waving his sword. So the bravery of these guys are pretty amazing, especially if you know what happens if you're wounded, right? What does he have to find first?
Yeah.
2 lunatics to lead it. Think about it. Every musket in the Confederate lines is firing at those first two guys. So you got to find two crazy guys who go, yeah, full speed. And you know what? There's always somebody. Oh, do it, yeah. So they found the first guys, right? Some of you might be that person. I got to admit, I would be that person to volunteer somebody else to go. Oh, you volunteered, that's good. But at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 11th, quick blast of the bugle, they stood up in charge. No bombardment, the Confederates were completely taken by surprise. They had time to fire one round, that's it. And the amazing thing is, the first guys weren't hit. The first 5 guys in both columns weren't hit at all. They moved so fast that hit guys behind them. They got to the Confederate line, they turned left and right and cleared out 100 feet of the line like that.
How did they clear them?
They just ran out with their bayonets. The Confederates were so taken by shock, they just took off running.
Oh, there you go. I was like, they can't stack them. Oh my god.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, carrying guys with your bayonet. The thing is, people generally don't like to be stuck with bayonets. Yeah, they don't like it. No, I mean, they kind of panicked and ran.
Did they like jump into the trenches?
Yeah, literally jumped in the trench and stopped running.
That's why I was thinking it.
But the problem was, no reinforcements came. Nobody thought it would work. So no one came to exploit the breakthrough. But when Meade found out that night, they'd be pushed back out. When Meade found out, let's do it with 20,000. Upton was promoted to general. He got a brigade of 4,000 men. And now it's going to be 4 columns. This must have been something, 4 columns of 1,000 men. And they were going to attack here in this angle. The idea is split this, get into the Confederate rear, split the Confederate line in 2, and potentially win the war. And then waiting behind would be a 12,000-man corps under, remember that General Hancock, who was the hero of Gettysburg, but he was horribly wounded in the battle. It took a musket ball and it kind of ripped apart his belly. And they sewed it together, but it still leaked.
What side was he on?
Union. He's the guy who held the Union Center at Gettysburg. The general in chief. A very good general, but he's still in pain. He's in agony.
Is this the one that you just got in? It just, this is
Wait, what?
like these on there.
Yeah, well,
Is
that's
everything.
a lot of them leaked.
I thought it was Johnston.
Johnston did his leak too.
Was his just a bullet?
Yeah, his was a bolt, but it hit kind of an angle, so it ripped out a big hunk.
Which one was the one that got him like right on the?
And that was Johnston.
Oh, I was thinking that's his.
And Hancock would have, he would survive. He would run for president in 1880. I think he died in 1896 or 1897. Finally had the wound. The wound finally got him.
Finally.
These guys are tough. They were a different breed. Like I said, my generation. But command attack right there. So 1 o'clock. They had to go over about 100 yards of clearing. If you go there, it's pretty far. They had to run through this and attack the Confederate line. No bombardment, nothing to give the Confederates a clue. They did diversionary attacks here and here, and then they attacked. And it almost worked again. Those first guys charged like maniacs, screaming. They got over. It's kind of a very hill, kind of a sloping ground like this. They got to the Confederate line. These 2 cleared out, and the middle 2 lines just went straight through and just disrupted the Confederates. Opened up a huge hole, panicked in the Confederate line. It looked like they achieved their breakthrough. All it takes is Hancock's corps to attack right then, but there was a problem. Hancock was marching through here all night and mornings would be ready to go. Because this line was here, and it had to go all the way over here. There's really no roads, they had terrible maps, there's hills, heavily forested. They got lost. They could hear shooting, they just couldn't find it for 2 hours. They marched around for 2 hours. So by the time Hancock's men got here, Lee once again personally led a counterattack. In fact, a Texan regiment pulled him off his horse because they thought he was going to lead it from the horse and they feared he'd be shot. They pushed Upton back to here just as Hancock's men arrived. And the battle would devolve to a fight over that trench line, and it's going to be called the Bloody Angle. This is a painting of that angle on the line. So this is how the Confederates dug their trenches. This shows where you see the wood right here. What they would do is they would dig about a 3-foot hole, mound up the dirt they dug up on one side. So you have this about 5 feet. And then at night, they'd go back and cut logs and brace the logs against that. And so you had, it went right here, so they called it a breastwork. And so it's a mound and then this. So there's a big mound there. The Confederate forces push Upton back, and then Hancock's men arrive and other reinforcements. So there's about 30,000 Union soldiers and about 15,000 Confederates. And they fought back and forth over this mound for 20 hours. And the body just piled up, and then it started to rain. A little bit like this, but it rained for about 15 hours. It's kind of dying now. Remember, it's Virginia. It tends to rain a little bit more than here. I know that shocks you. Just dumping rain. And so they're fighting, and it's pretty cool. But humans, humans. It literally was. The mass humanity just kind of piled up. And what's happening is they're ducked. The men in front are ducked behind this mound. Every once in a while they charge over, but they can push back. And pretty soon it evolved to men were ducking, and somebody would hand them a musket, the guys in front. They would fire it, slash with their bayonets, and then just kind of throw the musket back. Hand them up another one. If men were killed or wounded, they fell right in. Wounded men, if they could, they crawled back. If they couldn't, well, hundreds drowned in the mud as it got muddier and muddier. This went on all night. The bloody angle was hell. Well, Lee finally pulled back and dug new trenches, and now the Union Army was left in this carnage. In one 100-foot section of the trench line, there were 500 bodies just stacked up in the trenches. So literally, there was no trench anymore for those bodies. So if you go there today and walk along the trench line, it literally is hollow ground. Not really any cannon. This is all musketry, so musket balls. So there at that site today is this sign. There was an oak tree right on the Confederate line. Oak tree, hardwood. Rifle shot, cut it in two. Cut it in two. The top just toppled over. Think about what it would do to a human body if it cut a tree in half. Or rifles. Rifles. So all the musk, everyone's just firing over and over again. So many bullets hit it, cut the tree in half. Now, they cut the stump, and now it's in the Smithsonian Museum of American History. This is when they first put it in the Smithsonian. That's what it looks like. And I'll pass this picture around. This is the picture I took of it. If you've been to the Smithsonian, it's there. It's very close to Sheridan's Horse. Remember Sheridan's Horse? You're right. The first picture I took was pre-digital camera. And so I took a picture and I had a flash on. I tried to get an angle so the flash would reflect away, but it didn't work. So I didn't realize it until I had the pictures developed, but it was just a picture. Well, I had two pictures. One picture of just this giant flash, reflection of a flash. So you see nothing. The other picture was just my reflection. Of me taking a picture, of me taking a picture, etc. Next time I went back, I took many pictures because now I had a digital camera, and I just made this one I always keep over there. But if you look carefully at that, see little gray flecks in that? Those are musket balls. Dug into the tree. There were hundreds of unknown bodies. Hundreds. So let me get through this pretty quick. What happened next? Well, as you pass this around, casualties. Just listen. Just listen. You have to write this down. Another 31,000 down. About 19,000 Union. Now we're over 60,000 casualties in a month. And this is just these two battles. We're not even talking about all the other battles. Yeah. When you attack, you got to come out in the open. Makes sense? Well, I'm going to tell you a couple things. Don't write anything down quite yet. Same deal. Now, Grant ordered me to try to go around again. Here, small battle, but not a good place to attack. Once again, Lee beat him. Mechanicsville, Lee beat him again. And then this one right down, Cold Harbor. Cold Harbor, Lee beat them again. 3 hours. By 3 hours. But they now are so good at defensive lines, they dug better defenses than we're at Fredericksburg. But Grant figured they've got to be weakened. One more big attack and we could win. So it's going to be Cold Harbor and the day we care about, June 1st. So it's less than a month. This is an engraving from Harper's Magazine. And the Confederate lines, they show it as wood here, but think of it more as kind of a mound and wood. So it's a big mound they were behind. There's almost a mile of open ground, farmland, that the Union forces were out to attack. It's a lot like Gettysburg or Fredericksburg. But Meade and Grant thought, they gotta be weak. One good attack, we could win. Richmond's only a few miles away. So he ordered an all-out assault. And look how the men are lined up. Just like before. They decided it was too far to go for Upton's idea, or Upton's plan, and so they're gonna march in their lines, fast march, a mile of open ground. Meade and Grant thought it might work. They had a fresh corps there, fresh units. So we can attack with fresh units and also veterans of Spotsylvania. The men knew better. The night before the battle, thousands of men seeing the carnage or hearing about the carnage at Spotsylvania. Why? There weren't bodies. They were just mounds of flesh, meat. They were terrified that their family would never know. So they took little pieces of paper and wrote their name and their hometown, pinned it to the back of their uniforms. So maybe they'd be identified. Dog tags, same thing would happen. That's why they come up with dog tagging. The Germans did it first in World War I. For that reason. Because high explosives by then don't leave nice little bodies. And so they wrote their last words in their diary. There were diary writers then, a lot of different kinds of style than today. And the plan was to attack at noon. And it's going to sound just like Gettysburg. Or just like Fredericksburg. So it works both ways. Thousands marched out in nice lines. As they got closer, first the Confederates fired solid shot, canister, muskets. And they literally cut them down in rows. And the Confederates were getting good at this. They were good defensive lines. They got to about 30 yards and that's it. Just mowed them down. Had a carnage bigger than Fredericksburg. In 20 minutes, 7,000 men went down. Killed, wounded, and missing. It's hard to even comprehend those numbers. And remember, there's no machine guns. There's no high explosives. Unbelievable carnage. Well, Meade was misinformed and was told that they'd actually capture the Confederate line, so he sent more men. The slaughter continued for 5 hours. 12,000 total men went down. This was a bloodbath. Cold Harbor, another Confederate victory, it appeared like. But this is what we got to get. Listen to the numbers. In just a month of fighting, just a month. I wrote this down somewhere. Just imagine I wrote this down. In just a month, the Confederates, or the Union Army, had lost nearly 57,000 men. The Army of the Potomac, I mean, they're funneling in replacements of 57,000 men. That's over half of the number they started with. Now, replacements are coming. The Confederates lost over 33,000 men. What's the problem for Lee? No, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel and getting reinforcements. But eventually he'll run out of men, won't he? Now, Grant was hoping they could fight that one big battle and win the war. But more and more, reluctantly, they're going to have to accept a different type of strategy. And this is the way all wars are fought today. Attrition. Kill so many of the enemy that they literally can no longer fight. Grind them down. You hear them use euphemisms like exhaust them. Well, exhaust them means kill and maim humans so they can no longer fight the war. And this is the way all wars are fought. Everybody keeps hoping for a big victory. They were all thinking they'd be Napoleon and win at Austerlitz and win another big victory. No. World War I, attrition. World War II, attrition. They're all attrition. The Confederates are hoping the same thing. We kill so many that eventually Lincoln will lose for re-election and we can win. But Grant has one more idea, and I'll explain this picture. It's a really good picture. Come on. Okay, the quiz then. There'll be 16 questions, 2 little groups of 8. They'll be from the bookmark. Sound good?
Next question.
Bookmark on chapter 17. Yeah.
So, re-election of 1864, what did we write down about that?
For the election of 1864, the Union Army had to at least look like they're winning, so Lincoln could be re-elected. Everybody knows if Lincoln's not re-elected, the Confederacy wins. And so obviously the South wants to hold out and make it look like they can't win by the election. It's the election.
And then at Spotsylvania,
Yeah.
what happened there? Like they dug they got 8 hours.
Yeah, that's the bloody angle.
Oh,
The bloody
so
angle
that's
is part of
what-
Spotsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Okay, so for English, I'm doing a historical read of Hamlet. That was written in 1602.
Yeah.
So with that, you have to talk about what was happening in England leading up to that. So what are some big
England?
Shakespeare.
Oh, England. Okay, so you're doing.
Yeah. So,
Hamlet's not English, but
yeah.
Dude,
So what are some big things?
remember that's Elizabeth near the end of Elizabeth. Just at the end of Elizabeth's reign, James I just took over,
Okay.
and they just converted to Henry VIII. Just got rid of the Catholic Church, so the Protestant Reformation's going on. And but they defeated the Spanish and the Spanish Armada. And James was pretty open. So James would allow, the Stuart monarchy. Remember he's married Queen of Scots. Remember her?
Yeah.
That's his son. That's her son. I'm sorry. And
Limbo under the disc.
yes, he was a Protestant, but they would allow for slaves and bear baiting and all the good fun they would have at that time. So that's why there would be the Globe Theater and other theaters would happen. So it's a big time for that.
Okay.
And other than that, they're still technically fighting for this war with Spanish.
I can do it.
Spanish.
No, I will.
Try it right now.
Okay. All right. Try. Thanks.
And also, they're about ready to bring compensation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh, I should have one more thing. The Puritans are just starting, and they're looking at this awful degenerate.
I told you I couldn't do it.
And that's
You
gonna
could've.
be, you'll have to war,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff going on. So they look at Shakespeare. Shakespeare's really body, and,
Yeah.
a lot of double entendre and things in this play. So they really thought that was.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Sorry, we're not limboing. I got a question.
But I was limbo this
Oh yeah,
day.
you're gonna limbo. You're
I
gonna.
already seen it,
No, I'm sorry, Taylor. Why am I helping Taylor? He's not even in my class anymore. I said, "Well, this is."
Oh, he wants to be in your class next semester.
I should have just said, "Read my presence."
Throw your laptop back. Your computer, not laptop.
No, he's asking a question about Hamlet. We want to know about Hamlet.
Yeah.
Remember James the First, and right then Elizabeth the Interesting time. That's the era of bear baiting.
That's
Oh, the gunpowder plot. Remember that was the guy prophesied the war.
Russell's like, no,
Let's say.
Oh, you. I got it ready at 1. I accidentally shut it off.
He's like,
And now it's quiet. Why? Bruh.
I couldn't tell who was just.
By the way, they're not in Kansas anymore.
he's like, what do you buy? Wait a minute, fellas.
Here, let me get rid of this.
Yeah, no.